Nonsense in the chaos. Wicked witches. Trusting the unknown. Welcome to the Nonsense in the Chaos. I'm your host, Jolie Rose. Today I'm going to be interviewing another Sark resident. This one is a summer visitor. He is like the swallows. He appears when the weather turns warm and then disappears again when the weather turns cold. When I first moved here, I said, do you have any homeless people who live on Sark? And people said, yes, we have Ray. And then from working at the Mermaid Tavern, I got to know him and I realised that that's not the case. He is an extremely intelligent fellow. And yeah, he did choose to sleep in a tent before because he just liked doing so. It wasn't because he was homeless. But he's the nearest we have to a homeless person because we don't have homeless people in the Channel Islands. You move here with a job or you're from here and so people know you. There might be in Jersey, but there definitely isn't in Sark and Guernsey or Alderney, I would have thought. So yeah, he's a bit like a hobo. He's our closest thing to a hobo. He likes to travel around and he would prefer to sleep in a tent than stay in a house, which is fair enough. I'm definitely of the same ilk. And yes, speaking to him at the Mermaid Tavern over the last few years, realising just his brain is incredible, and I feel like I have managed to capture it in this interview. He's a genius and he does meander, but it's fascinating. It's always fascinating, and we do adore him here on Sark. So yes, I hope you enjoy listening to his mind palace that is Ray Howard. So on with the show. Welcome to Ray. What's your surname, Ray?
Howard.
Howard.
That's right.
Is it Ray Howard?
In fact, it actually shows up in a poem about the Spanish Armada.
Does it?
My Lord Howard ran off with his ships, leaving Sir Richard Grenville with one ship to face them. He wasn't a very brave guy.
And is he an ancestor?
Not as far as I know.
Okay, well that's all right. So Ray is a regular in Sark. How long have you been coming to Sark?
Since 2011.
2011. Okay, well, that's not that long back then. So 10, 14 years.
Yeah.
14 years.
13 years.
13 years. And what made you come here in the first place?
Well, this friend of mine, Stein,
Yeah.
who is a great organiser, sometimes he can be a bit of something or other disciplinarian. He's really good at organising things.
Yeah.
So the first time I came I came for free because I used to help him out in his bar. He'd leave, he'd go home, take his last bus, 11:45. I'd take over and close it at 3:00. And since I lived in the same house, I didn't have any last buses. And I must say that bar was the craziest thing you've ever come across. You could do things there that you get you kicked out of anywhere.
And where is this bar?
Oslo.
Oslo, okay.
And so he said, well, anyone who's helped me, so I came along for 2 weeks. So many people came on that occasion that Stein actually had to run around and hire another house to take the overflow.
Oh, wow.
And the strange thing was actually leaving Sark, because I went to Croydon first, Gatwick.
Yeah.
And it was Saturday afternoon. Walked around and and then it became Saturday evening, and I got really paranoid. I mean, all these tall buildings, bright lights, horrible fiends crashing around, and so many people, there. And I thought, okay, Am I becoming paranoid or is it culture shock? I talked to one of the other guys later, Arno, who had gone back to San Molo, and without any prompting from me, without any word from me, he said, I got there, I'm scared.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I go to Glastonbury Festival from here, and I have a panic attack every time because of the number of people.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's so many humans. So where are you from originally?
The short version is that I was born in Accra, capital city of Ghana, a country in West Africa some people have heard of.
Yeah.
My passport says I'm British, and I live in Oslo, which is the capital of, actually, contrary to popular belief in Britain, not Sweden, but Norway.
Ah.
I mean, call a Norwegian a Swede, it's like calling a Scotsman an Englishman. You know?
All right, I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, and nowadays it's such a joke.
Did you move to Oslo? How did you end up there?
Well, running around on my travels, basically, and wound up there, and hung around and thought, okay, I can actually exist for 6 months, and if I find a job, I'll stay here for a year. Okay, so by the time I'd finished, I'd found a couple of part-time jobs and etc., 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 and then went back again after the sun. And everyone says, I had something to do with a girl. And I was, surprisingly enough, no. Actually, that's the standard cliche. And so I guess I kind of settled in somehow. And one way and another, I'm now a qualified teacher for the Norwegian language in the Norwegian school system, which is all very strange. And
how many languages can you speak?
Right now, English and Norwegian. How many languages have I been able to speak? Okay, you forget them after a while, they sink down. The science of psychology tells us we never actually forget anything. But we have a very bad filing system. And, okay, before I actually answer your question, in connection with that, some researchers went to visit some ex-British servicemen in France because, okay, well, everyone's heard of the 6th of June, 1944, and they got themselves jobs very easily as graveyard attendants, British military graveyards. I mean, there were quite a few graves as a result of that day.
Yeah.
All round. And so they met local girls.
Yeah.
And then stayed there. 20 years later, some researchers went along to find out how they were doing, discovered they could no longer speak a word of English. They'd lost their own language completely after 20 years. And this isn't a good answer to your question, but in connection with that, a long time ago, I met a woman in Tønsberg, I think it was, south of Oslo, and she was running a kiosk, and I was with a couple of English guys, and she actually confessed that she was actually British, but she couldn't speak English. And what had happened to her was that she was in Scotland, and okay, we've all heard of, or have we, SOE, Special Operations Executive, which had lots of branches and stuff, and okay, they were the bunch that destroyed the heavy water plant. Heroes of Telemark, there's even a film about it. And they were all local lads. So they were in Scotland doing commando training. That's where she met him. And, okay, they all knew the area. They were in British uniforms, but they certainly had the advantage of local knowledge. Anyway, so finally, she married him and settled down in Tønsberg. Just after the war, and had been there ever since. And way back then, okay, television wasn't even around until a bit later. And in the 50s, there wasn't much television in England either. It was coming. And satellite TV wasn't there. And so, of course, had it been today, she wouldn't have lost contact with her own language because so much of it comes out of the box.
It's on the telly, yeah.
So many films and stuff. Okay, getting back to that. German. Apparently my accent is very good. The language has evaporated. I got talking to a German guy at Malaga airport, actually. He asked me where I was from in Germany. I had to admit, wait a minute. And he asked me if I spoke German. He wanted some sort of assistance from me.
Yeah.
And I said, well, actually, yeah, but I've forgotten so much. I really can't speak anymore. And I'm not quite in the light of his last question to me, I'm not quite certain how he understood that. But so the accent's still there. I seem to get the grammar right.
Did you live in Germany for a bit then?
I was in Germany quite a lot, actually. I had German at school, and the teachers were all German. So that, mind you, it was still, I guess, school German, you know.
Yeah.
But the accent was there, the grammar was there, and was a bit in Germany back and forth.
Yeah.
And so apparently they told me I could do it quite well. And I have German A-level, by the way, for what that's worth. And
are you? Did you go? Are you a professor at all? You seem like you are.
I've heard that one before. Actually, I've been very much involved in adult education.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not exactly being a professor,
No.
as far as I know. But yeah, that's leave it at that.
Okay.
Going into lots of details that I've got. And French.
Yeah.
I had French at school. Lots of people have, and they can't speak French, and I'm not quite certain that I could either. But I lived for a year in Algeria, and they told me I did it very well. Well, okay, perhaps they're being just polite, but I seem to be able to handle it. Spanish, got Spanish A-level.
Yeah.
Here we go. Did not have Spanish at school, but I discovered an ancient book, not actually in the school library, but in a bookshelf there, and it was called Heath's First Spanish Course, published in 1920. So it was a bit ancient, but the language didn't seem to have changed much, I discovered. And I thought, well, just for the hell of it, I'll do one exercise out of this book every day just for my own amusement. So by the time I'm finished, I took a Spanish O-level, to everyone's astonishment. And I discovered later that had made me a bit of a talking point among the teachers. So I discovered that much later.
And were you at school in Ghana?
No, in England, actually.
Okay.
But my parents were hanging around in Ghana and Nigeria. And
so were you sent to boarding school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a very nice boarding school. It wasn't one of these horrible sort of military academy type things, the boot camp type things. And, okay, question. Have you ever heard of a film called If? It came out, I guess, in the mid-60s, I think.
No, I don't.
Okay, it's Malcolm McDowell plays in it, and it's about a public school, and it's a bit sort of surrealistic. It drifts away from reality, and then you suddenly realise, wait a minute, we've gone into a fantasy world, and they discover an armoury from the Second World War, probably, under the school stage, and somehow or other they wind up having a bit of a revolution, and and I saw it together with a guy I knew. He asked me if I'd been to a public school, and I said, well, no, I certainly went to a boarding school, but not a public school in the normal sense. And he said, I did. Watching that film, you have no idea what it felt like, the resentment welling up inside me. So, but some people enjoyed public school.
Yeah. So you enjoyed your school?
Yeah, it was a really, really okay place to be. Boys and girls from 6 until 18.
Yeah. Whereabouts in the country was it?
East Sussex.
Oh, right. I lived in Brighton. Yeah.
Okay.
Around that area.
All right. Okay. The school is just outside a place called, a tin pot place called East Grinstead.
Yeah.
Which actually a surprising number of people actually seem to have heard of, which surprises me.
So you seem to be very interested in language and history. That's the things I've picked up from talking to you.
Well, my historical knowledge is very very patchy. Certainly I'm very interested in language. In fact, see, I actually studied Norwegian at Oslo University, and that has to be explained a bit because the system as it was then, things have changed, many things have, that there were no tuition fees. There was a registration fee which was pretty nominal. It tended to vary between about £1 and £10, depending. I don't know what made it vary, but basically registered. And at that point in time, part-time jobs were growing on trees. People were crying out for some casual labour and stuff. So it was very easy to find a job or find a few jobs which didn't actually get in the way of anything. And what really attracted me to it was, now there are lots of people who are going to think I'm mad when they say this.
That's okay. We like mad here. Mad is fine.
One thing. All right. Let me ask you a question. They've taken it off the syllabus. If I say parsing, what does that say anything?
Parsing.
To parse. P-A-R-S-E. Okay.
No.
Okay. It used to mean. You can actually parse a computer program, which means go through it. And that was a new use of the word that I hadn't heard. It meant that English O-level, when they had O-levels and stuff back then, in my time, they've now, I think, roughly GCSEs.
Yeah.
I think they're roughly the same thing, more or less.
Yeah.
And the English O-level language, or English language O-level, was actually an exam that that really a lot of people had a lot of difficulty with. And as far as I know, there's no English language A-level, never was. And to get a useful combination of O-levels, you have to have English language, mathematics or a natural science, a foreign language. That doesn't seem to be a requirement any longer. And whatever else you could sort of clock up, basically.
Yeah.
But those three things. And the English language exam was in 3 parts, which the first part was a piece of parsing. Okay, now what does that mean? You've got a text, and you go through it. You have to identify, you have to analyze it, what each word is doing in the sentence, what its relationship is to all the other words.
Yeah.
So basically, you start off by find the verb, and you can either divide the sentence up into subject, verb, and the rest of it, or just the subject and the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then identify all the bits and pieces, subordinate clauses, what each word is doing there. I used to love that. What exactly is happening in the sentence?
Yeah.
And to my mind, I have the feeling it gives some kind of insight into something. I don't know whether that's truly psychological.
But do you notice it in different languages, like from talking different languages?
Oh, yeah.
The things that you're able to express in one language is different to another.
The formulation is different.
Yeah.
And this was called parsing. Previously, it had been called construing, I think.
Okay.
Or whatever. And in Norwegian, it's called funksjonsanalyse, which means function analysis.
Okay.
What exactly is the function of each word, each phrase, and the whole thing. And then the next bit was précis, which is a very useful skill to have. You get a passage, and you're supposed to reduce it to a given number of words, which they give, usually approximately a third.
Yeah.
So you go through it, pick out all the different points, and then you summarize the important points.
Yeah.
And if you've got a few words left over, you don't produce padding. You find out which is the most important of the points that you didn't include.
Yes.
And that is a very useful skill. And, the précis, most people manage that. The third part was an essay. Write an essay.
Yeah.
The language bit is divided into 3 bits: the history of the language, both old and modern, the dialects. Okay, if dialects, are they important? The important thing is, how did they arise from Old Norse?
But am I right in thinking you're an expert in Old Norse?
Poof, I did. That's a good question. I did get that reputation at one point. I can't remember any of it now. And the reason I got the reputation, not deserved to my mind, was that at one point they used to have Old Norse as a separate exam at one point in the progression, and it used to be oral. And I thought, oh God, okay. So I never crammed anything. I just read it again and again and again, and okay, that's an I stem, and how did it arise from Proto-Nordic and Common Germanic and the whole thing. And so I thought, just to make sure that there's no questions when I have to sort of learn it by heart. And when I had to learn it by heart, I discovered I already knew it just by having looked at it. And then,
do you have a photographic memory, possibly?
No.
You don't?
Up to my mind.
Okay. Because I learned scripts and I definitely couldn't just read something and then know it afterwards.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'd been looking at it for a while and going through it.
Right.
I just sat in the lounge all by myself with these books and coffee, and went through it all for 5 days. And learned actually a lot, very peaceful, very nice surroundings. And back then it was an oral exam, and normally it takes half an hour. They had me in there for an hour and a quarter. And so you go in, and you've got an examiner and a censor. The examiner asks the questions. The censor decides which questions are to be asked, and then they send you out, and they get together and discuss what mark to give you. And okay, so I get in there, I get presented with this piece of paper, translate those 2 verses of Horamul. Horamul means the speech of the High One, Odin. Okay, it's an Edda poem, and you can't really do an Edda poem unprepared unless you're a real expert. A saga, you can actually, the vocabulary is so limited. You can do it if you've read one, you can understand the rest of them basically. Although you do notice a difference in style, and some of those they're quite dramatic. And so I had prepared it and went through it. Went through the 2 verses. And on the basis of those 2 verses, they grilled me on the entire grammar. Okay, it's highly inflected, 4 cases and so on, and what was that, and where does it come from, and how did it come into that form, and I thought, God, okay, so long as she sticks to the grammar, which were some bits of the syllabus I hadn't read, so long as she sticks to the grammar, I'm safe. And they hammered away, and I made one blunder, which they let me know about afterwards, which was, okay, all these poems are written down in a manuscript called Codex Regius, the Royal Codex or whatever, which was actually written in Iceland, and then it was taken to the museum in Copenhagen, and they said, okay, when was it taken to the museum? And I said, around in the 1100s. That was so totally wrong. So they said, actually, I think it was 1662.
Right.
So, of course, I remember that date. And, okay, they said, well, that was just totally wrong. It was all slipping a gear there. And tragically, the manuscript was destroyed in the university fire, but the contents are recorded. So, and okay, so I went out. Thank you. And then, of course, usually in such situations, you will be called back at some point after they've deliberated, and they'll tell you what your results are. And not that bunch. They are not merciful. They sort of broadcast it so the entire corridor can hear it. And I said, well, that was okay for me because I'd actually got an astonishingly good mark.
Excellent.
And that's how I got that reputation.
Yeah, got the reputation of being an expert.
The secretaries in the sort of records department actually knew who I was, which was interesting. And he said, yeah, well, with a name like yours, those kind of marks, you're going to be remembered. Okay, that's nice. Not all my marks were that brilliant, but those were. And so for a while, but if you don't use it, I mean,
It
right
disappears.
today, I'm pretty hopeless.
Yeah.
We've run into a backwater.
No, that's right. Well, this is a good opportunity for us to pull a ring.
If you enjoy this podcast, then please consider supporting me at patreon.com/Jolie Rose. This is something that I absolutely love doing, making this podcast, and it's the way that I've figured out to create an audience and a platform for me to express myself as an artist from the limitations of living on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And I love limitations. I think it's key to the creative process. It's something that I've often worked with, even when I had the freedom of living in Brighton and being in the UK and having access to vast numbers of people and the ability to travel around the place and go to different venues and be in the world of the arts and take shows to Edinburgh. I still like to put limitations on the work that I did because I feel like when there's too much choice, it's kind of overwhelming. So I do feel like there's something quite inspiring and beneficial about the limitation that I have of being on this small island. It doesn't paralyse me or fill me with dread or fear. It fills me with the excitement of, okay, well then what can I do? I can write books and I can make podcasts, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm creating from my little rock, and I love it and put on festivals. So yeah, it's working with what you've got, and limitations actually make you focus because yes, something about being in Brighton and having all the options in the universe means that it can be quite overwhelming. So I have some creative offerings that are coming up that you're welcome to come and join in with. So I'm going to be opening Boomtown, which is very exciting. I'm going to be on the Lions Gate stage as part of the opening ceremony, and then we have a venue called La Luna Coven, which is in Old Town. So if anyone's going to be at Boomtown and wants to come along and say hello, please do. That would be lovely. I'll also be at Kentwell Hall in Suffolk in August after Boomtown for a week dressing as Tudors. So if you live in Suffolk and fancy coming along to Kentwell Hall, then you can come and see us performing as the Mummers at Kentwell's reenactment in August. Also, we're going to be walking a pilgrimage across the UK September to October, and if you go on my social media, which is Kriya Arts, KRIYAARTS, and that's on Facebook and Instagram, I've put the dates up for where we're walking and when, and so you can have a look at that and see if you are in the area. So if you would be interested in us coming along and performing for you, or if you want to feed us, or if you want to house us for the night, or if you fancy coming and walking with us for a day or two, get in touch and let me know. There's also, my book's going to be coming out at the end of the year, which is called Walking with Autumn, and it'd be great if people could pre-sale order it, because pre-sales are everything. So I will be launching that as a crowdfunder soon for people to be able to get those early purchases in, and you'll be able to choose whether you get just that book or if you get a collection of all my books signed, and if you get them in hardcover, etc. And all the money will go towards paying for an illustrator and just finishing the last bits of the book off. And last but not least, it is the British Podcast Awards, and there is the listener's choice. So if you enjoy this podcast, please go and vote for it at the britishpodcastawards.com/vote type nonsense in the chaos, click vote, reply to the confirmation email. It's as easy as that. And just, let's get an award for this podcast. That would be amazing. So if you enjoy it, please do that and share that you've done it with people and let people know that you are supporting this podcast. So thank you ever so much. And now on with the show.
So, you know about runes. We've chatted about runes before. I said to you the reason why we do this is for an element of not the nonsense and the chaos. So it's letting the universe lead. And then you said something interesting, which is the universe chaos? So what's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on whether the universe is chaos or not?
Well, Einstein actually rejected the quantum theories to begin with. I don't know quite what he did at the end. Einstein is the very famous father of the theory of relativity, as most of us know, even if we don't know anything about relativity. And he said, God does not play dice with the universe. Mm-hmm. Things are very systematic and they follow certain rules and things happen and so on. But the thing with quantum mechanics is that things seem to be, can get very random. You don't know what's going to happen. And there's good old Professor Heisenberg with his uncertainty theory. And that poor theory, it's been used to justify so many things. There's a rather interesting physics experiment, actually, that you send a stream of electrons through this metal plate with two slits in it.
Yes.
And you get this an interference pattern as though you were sending light through. Mm-hmm. And so, wait a minute, this means that the electron must have gone through both slits for there to be an interference pattern. This is a wave pattern associated with the electron. And how can the electron have gone through both slits?
Yeah.
This is a matter of, so people say, well, perhaps the wave pattern went through both slits, but the electron didn't. And no one's been very good at explaining this. And the strange thing is, and I don't know quite how it's done, that if you photograph photographically, you can actually discover which slit the electron went through. If you do that, you don't get the interference pattern, which means that there is no such thing as an impartial observer. So this means that our understanding of what happens stops the phenomenon occurring. And that is very weird.
Yeah.
And someone else has modified the model, saying the electron goes through one slit, then it goes back again and goes through the other slit. And said, well, actually, it's just a model. Who knows what exactly happens? And Einstein, because of this randomness, he said, oh, it's all got to do with hidden variables. It's not really random. So
we don't know. I always think that it's like to do with scale. So on one scale, things fit with certain rules, but then on another scale they don't, and it's almost like the more in focus, as in this scale things are, the more it fits the rules that we know.
Yeah,
but the further out you go and the further in you go, the less it behaves.
On the other hand, on a macro level things happen. On a micro level things are a bit different, which is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And actually, theoretical physics is very much magic in a real technical sense. Okay, well, how do you define magic? The theoretical idea of magic is that you manipulate the reality behind the illusion that we experience.
Yeah.
In a way, by doing things to the real reality behind it, you will have an effect on what happens in our illusory world. And so very often people who practice magic, like the Calabaris in Nigeria, they will perform some ritual. And if it doesn't work, of course, then they'll have a built-in explanation for failure.
Yes.
Like, crocodile mother had a bad day or something. You never know. But the idea's there.
It's come up a couple of times in podcasts where I've had conversations with people, and actually one of them was a friend whose partner had died, and she saw him in a dream, and she said to him, like, "What's it like?" And he said, "Well, it's a lot more organised than you'd imagine."
Yeah.
And that's how I feel, is that it seems like chaos to us because we don't understand it, but actually, if you understand it, then it's not chaos. But we, whether we'll ever get to that point.
So you are then, with knowledge of the reality behind our illusion, which we can only understand in terms of mathematical equations, allows us to make things happen in our illusory world. I mean, this table seems pretty solid to us, but actually most of it is mostly empty space.
Yeah. Hey, this is great. I love it. Brilliant. So if you pull a rune,
all right,
and then that will inspire what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And do you know the runes?
Yeah, that's L. I don't know the names of them,
No.
but that's the L rune.
Yes, Lagos. And it's the water. It's the rune of water. And so we're on an island in the sea. So what made you keep coming back to Sark? You came here, you've been coming here for 11 years.
well-
What is it you love about the place?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
That's it. I like it here. And when I get here, I think,
Yeah.
I sort of sigh of relief somehow.
Yeah.
And of course, the first time I was here, there was this girl, Birgitte, who she sort of looked around and said, Tolkien must have been here. This is just like the Shire. And I thought, okay. And one thing, the first time I was here, there were, the first evening, I was up at the Mermaid here, and actually on the way back got lost because I missed the turning. And because of course, no street lamps, I did actually have illumination, not that I was using it. And I thought, okay, wait a minute, I don't know quite where I am. And at that point, there was one thing that looked like it could be a street lamp, and that was the pub sign at the Mermaid. Okay, so I managed to find that. Right, let's start again. And then I didn't miss the turning, and I managed to find my way. But there was, how the first time, okay, how do I know where Mermaid Lane is? At the top of Mermaid Lane in Ruluka, on the left-hand side, coming from Nakolinets, there used to be what I used to call the pixie sculpture. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
And it was a sculpture which was rather active. It was made of metal, iron, steel, or something, and it was movable. It had moving parts, and it had toadstools, fly agaric ones, red ones with white spots, made of iron, and orchid things. And water came down and went into the container. A little hole at the bottom let water out, but obviously water went out more slowly than it came in. So when the container got full, it then tipped over, and there was a sort of stalk with a little ball at the end, which then hit the mushroom, the irrelevant mushroom, went bing or bong, and there were quite a few of these just going, and so you got, I guess the melody or whatever did repeat itself at some point because it was quite regular, but it didn't seem very regular because these things were
just pinging and ponging.
Well, hitting the toadstools at different.
That's really cool.
And I think they turned it off because some neighbour was complaining, and I'm not surprised. And then it's not there anymore. I think that's very tragic.
Yeah.
And so that's one. That was one of the things that struck me. And
has it changed much? Is there anything noticeably changed?
Changed. Smoke. Not allowed to smoke in pubs anymore.
No.
Used to be able to do that. What else has changed? Electric When I first came, there was a illuminated pub sign,
Yeah.
and the pub sign got blown away. And what else has changed? Yeah, no motor vehicles were allowed, privately owned, except the knight of Sark, the seigneur. He is allowed to have a private motor vehicle. Okay, and as you know, tractors are around, but there are very definite rules about what you're allowed to do with them and everything, and which can be bent. I mean, that the bus service is not really allowed by law, but it's kind of necessary. So it's and you could have.
Have you read much of the law? No, you just sort of know just from what you've heard. Yeah.
And
I was wondering whether you could read Norman French then.
I managed to. I thought, okay, I can this is very old French, history, and I can understand what is written here. God knows how it's pronounced, how it's pronounced, but I can work out what it actually is saying. Okay, so I managed that one.
But can you recognise Sarkese at all when you see the patois? There isn't any relation to that in Norse?
No, well, actually, I don't know much in the way of patois. Mon bien, I know that one. That's that's about the only bit of patois I know, actually. I think.
Because it wasn't written down as a language; it was an oral language. So you don't.
Yeah.
There aren't sort of manuscripts that are around or anything.
I heard that someone has actually codified it.
Yes, a guy called Martin did do that.
And is it still okay for a language to be called living? There have to be 2 still living people who speak it.
There are still 2.
There are still 2.
There are only 2 left. Yeah.
Right. If 1 isn't enough, then
no. Yeah, exactly. We're trying. I mean, he has recorded it and has taught some of it to the school children, and so it's barely living. But yeah, it would be sad to lose it. It would be a shame, but we'd need people to learn it.
It might be a good idea to write stories in it.
Yeah,
children's stories or whatever. It's very difficult to get people to learn it when it's so unused.
Yes, yeah. And also, what's the point? Because in a way, should we learn French? And that would be a bit more useful. So It's that thing of, but also it'd be really sad for it to be lost. But it is pretty much. Do you feel like you're from anywhere, rooted anywhere, or do you feel like you're sort of?
Sorry.
Do you feel like you're from somewhere, or do you feel like you're a person of the world?
Yeah. When they say, where are you from? I have really real difficulty trying to answer that question, so I'm not quite certain. Where do you feel most at home or most belonging? Well, actually, at the moment, Norway, Oslo, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I seem to sort of blend in with the local population. As in 1991, this is kind of funny. I was a witness in a court case, and it was my job to explain to the court how the accused and the interrogator had managed to misunderstand each other completely without either of them understanding there had been a misunderstanding. So basically the accused had managed to sign a statement, which he had done without a lawyer, and you can withdraw your statement. Not always a good idea because it doesn't do good things for your credibility. But he didn't withdraw his statement. He just said, but that is not what I said. Yes, but this is your name, written by you. And so, in spite of the fact that the statement had been read back to him, or read out to him, clearly and loud and clear, he still had not understood what was there.
Right.
And this caused a certain amount of confusion. So I wound up, I actually knew the guy, so I knew quite a lot about his, let's say, language shortcomings.
Right. Also,
with my background, I knew a bit about language and how language works. And the defender held up this statement and says, Mr. Okay, the best translation is deputy sheriff, but these things are very difficult to translate. Anyway, so Deputy Sheriff Gunnarsson says, this is the truth. What he regards this as reality. What do you say to that? So poor Mr. Gunnarsson. Okay, so had explained how, because of they explained that the accused had, to quote, insufficiently or insufficiently, is that the word I used? Unusually. Yeah. I can't remember the first word. Let's say insufficiently or unusually or unnormally well-developed general lingual skills. Okay. And explained with examples that everyone could understand from everyday life how such misunderstandings could, in the case of this person, could take place. And then, okay, that seemed the defense lawyer said afterwards that was extremely clear. And I said, well, perhaps I didn't say enough. He said, oh, you said exactly enough. You stopped exactly when you should have stopped. I mean, that was excellent. And so the prosecutor gets up and starts asking me a couple of stupid questions just to get the ball rolling. And I forgot. Then he asked me 2 questions in one. And I thought, oh, kiddie, come on.
Yeah.
When you get these 2 questions, get them both explicit.
Yeah.
Any order you like, or the order most appropriate in the situation, and let each one have its own separate correct answer.
Yeah.
That's the point. And he said, get on with it. And okay, so if you ask a normal witness this, they might get stuck. Ask a normal expert witness, they might get stuck, like that character did.
Yeah.
So I couldn't understand why the hell he got stuck on it, but but if you ask that sort of question to someone who is supposed to be an expert witness about linguistic things,
you're like, wow.
Come on, kiddie. So I said, oh, yeah, okay. And very politely, do you mean, and for the life of me, I can't remember what he asked me. I've been kicking myself ever since. Do you mean this, or A, or do you mean B? Okay, they're now both explicit. And then he says, just answer the question, please. Okay, this sudden change of manner.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a normal piece of manipulative rubbish. And what he actually meant was, say yes or no. If he had said, just say yes or no, I would have appealed to the judge and said, Your Honour, I can't answer this question, it's a half-truth.
Yeah.
And I have promised on my honour and my conscience to tell the whole truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, all right? So if the court was to release me from my promise, I'll answer the question.
Yeah.
But I can't answer the question without breaking my promise to the court.
Yeah.
Okay, that would have blocked that one.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. He said, just answer the question, please. And he's expecting a yes or a no. I mean, what? And I said, well, certainly that's what I'm here for, very politely. And as the first step in the process, we have to precisate which of the 2 possible questions you would like an answer to. So the answer to the first question, and I'm going to answer the implicit one first, of course, because he can cut me off at any time, and he sees where it's going. No further questions, and turns round and goes to sit down. And so I sort of say to his back, very sort of in a very fatherly fashion, but didn't you want an answer to your question? And he didn't answer, and the judge had to step in and said, doesn't look like it. So the jury started laughing. And the manipulation becomes visible when it doesn't work.
Yes.
When it works, it's pretty invisible. When it doesn't work, it sort of becomes very invisible.
I love that that's what a sort of a kind of magic is that the behind the scenes mechanics of what's actually happening.
Once you understand the matrix.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. Well, actually, that brings us on perfectly to the Chaos Crusade.
All right.
Because that's what the Chaos Crusade is something that you would suggest to listeners to try out that helps them break the matrix. I mean, maybe learning a bit about linguistics sounds like quite a good thing, but anything you'd suggest to help break the matrix for someone to...
in confrontation with a manipulator, keep calm. Okay, if you're going to get angry, make sure you know what you're doing first.
Mm-hmm.
Don't answer spontaneously. Would it be a good idea to get angry now? And if the answer is yes, because sometimes, a sort of piece of a blouse may actually suddenly do the trick, can get rocked back. And they may be implying something. Okay, let them make it explicit before you relate to it. And in this context, ironically, a few months later, I was actually arrested myself. And it was a very, very minor matter. By the time and I never denied it, by the time we'd finished, I was sentenced to 14 days suspended, which is the mildest penalty for which Norwegian law makes provision. Okay, so obviously I hadn't tried to shoot the king or anything, an extremely minor matter. And then the interrogator, I was arrested on that important Sunday evening, at 9 o'clock, I remember that. And, so, and then we begin 12 hours later. I wind up in a cell. Yes. Then I get breakfast. Right, 8:30. Yes. No milk and sugar for the coffee. Never mind. And then I'm collected by the interrogator, who starts off being very, very friendly and everything, and offers me a cigarette. That won't happen these days, but then, and etc., etc., etc. And then starts asking me a little bit about my life story. I'm going to tell him. Mm-hmm. This character was a total narcissist, because none of my life story had nothing to do with anything. If he was trying to extract from me tactically important information, then I would have understood. Mm-hmm. But he was just basically trying to, he was just a control freak. And, his idea seemed to be, well, I can get anything out of anyone, more or less. And so I was very polite to him, and I said, no, I think we'll stick to the realities of the case. Any sensible police officer would just have said, right, you go along with this? Yes. Sign here, please. Yes. 5 minutes. You'll be hearing from us. I'm probably going to get a fine, a couple of £100 or something, all very irritating, but not very crippling. And that would have been it. But not this character. It's just carried on all day. And so he says, yeah, and you can confess to that. Yes. Right. And then he asked me about my past. No, I think we'll stick. Are you going to make a statement around you? Because we've discussed this before. I say yes. And leave it there. Because the word statement seems to have changed meaning.
Yes.
And he's trying to rattle me.
Yeah.
Come on, just follow carefully what he says. Give them an answer to exactly what they've said, not what you think they meant. If it's forget implications.
Mm-hmm.
You can relate to implications if you like, but on the whole, just listen very carefully to what they've said and give them an answer to what they've said.
So that was Ray Howard. What a fascinating man. It was such a joy to get to know him better and to really be observing the way his mind works, because I've sat and chatted to him for hours at the pub and we've talked about runes. He told me loads of amazing stuff about runes. Apparently the places where runes are written, which is on stones in Norway and Sweden and places, in the Nordic countries, they're written so they're not seen. So they're written on the base of rocks that are then upside down. So apparently they're not meant to be seen. They're not meant to see the light of day, which I just thought was fascinating. And he just is one of those people you could talk to forever and record everything he says, and you will constantly be surprised and inspired and taken on a journey by his conversations. He knows so much, but obviously when the older you get, the more there's just so many corridors to his mind palace that you feel like you're going to be lost. It's like a maze. But he does always find his way back to the beginning of what he was talking about, which is quite amazing. Sometimes it can be an hour before he gets back to the start of what he was talking about. but he does manage it, which is always very impressive. And there's just so much in there. So yeah, I'm pleased to have captured a snippet of some of Ray's inner world, and to have seen a little bit of the mechanics of how his brain works and what it is that inspires him and where it all comes from. And yeah, the rules and the linguistics and grammar behind language, just, it was interesting to see it through his eyes, and how it tells us so much more truth about the world than what the content of what we're saying, because the content of what we're saying is masking, and it's what we work with in fooling. You know, there's all the stuff that we say that's pleasantries and that's polite, but within a split second we read someone straight away. You know, as soon as you walk on the stage, people read you, and the fool's job is to be that honest thing, to admit the thing that you are, that people can see, rather than shielding it or masking it, and then to invite the audience to do the same, so that we can all just be ourselves and be the real being behind the mask of the words that we use or the image that we present. So fascinating stuff, and it was so lovely to chat to wonderful Ray. And yeah, thank you ever so much for being here as always, and I shall see you again next week. So see you on.